Websites.com. Buy things. It's 11:59 on Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song. Buy things at here. Websites.com.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk to 2 or 3 people about guns every single evening. So we got 3 people out there. One of them is DTP. Good evening. And it is Memorial Day, so the hats to everybody out there. Well, to the people that are no longer out there. And we'll close out of that. And I think I'm just going to work on some projects here. I didn't send any links out, so what I'll do tonight is just drop a link here. We'll see if anybody joins in tonight. Move this over so we can pay attention to the screen over here, and we'll screen share, which is our style. Open that up to the full screen there, and there's Chris showing up. So let's jump over to, do this on over here, I guess. All right, everything's gonna fall over. Oh, I didn't even get myself anything to drink. We're almost corked by Matt over there talking about dolls and toys, and ended up running really long over there. So let's see, gonna head over to, one of these days, let's update every second matters, I suppose. But I thought I would put, oh, there's this little fly here that's gonna bug the hell out of me. I don't notice it when there's noises, but I'm just sitting here silently talking to the wall. A lot of noises. So now I'm gonna go to the YouTube.
Talk about compromise and the Second Amendment, and one of the best ways I've heard it described is the Second Amendment.
Do I have that dude on here?
So our forefathers recognizing our
I do right there.
natural.
So now let's get into this guy's videos, and we'll see if anybody jumps in tonight. So I did drop a link there. That's the link to this place. StreamYard is the duck, El Pato. See what it says there? You do what the duck tells you. It wouldn't be wearing a monocle if it didn't know more than you. So feel free to jump in using this link, and then you'll show up in what's called the green room, and that's where you'll be judged. And if you're good, you'll come in here. And then otherwise the show will be short because I got no interest in just talking to the wall. Plus, here's what happened. I'll say stuff in here, and that little puppy will come in here because she'll hear me saying stuff. See, she got her first round already. And then she'll want to go out, or she'll want to eat, or whatever. She'll want something. By me talking in here, she'll remember that I'm here to serve her things. So otherwise, she's in there minding her business. All right, so let's go backwards. I don't even think I have Brooke Cheney in here. I don't have Mike Hughes, so I don't even know who that is. John Costa is a guy from a gun shop. I don't have him in here. I think I listed that one, but I don't have him in here. I don't have this guy. I don't have this guy. I don't know who these people are. Or this guy. Don't have this guy. Mike Sidini. Do I have Mike in here? Let's find it. So we'll go over to the activist page, and I'm guessing he would be in this area-ish if I had him in here. So let's try grabbing his name. A long way around getting his name, and let's see if we can search for him in here. Drop all of that, get rid of all of that, and search. So we don't like to talk America, but we don't have Mike City. So let's see if I don't know if I remember making a mic one or not. I think I did. Let's search that drive for mic. Let's just search for that might be one of the ones that got lost. Where else would it be? Yeah, that's the only place it would be. Where else would that be? If I didn't upload it to that site, that's the only place I would have uploaded it. So I don't have one to put mic under. I know it's going to be boringer than I thought. So then we got John. I know I have him in here. He'll be under bloggers. So now we can take that and put it in under here. I guess I need to log in. So it's WordPress. You log into them. Same as every WordPress. So now I got 8 people out there. See if anybody jumps in or says something. And then let's see. I will be logged in here in a moment. That's fine. So now we'll go to here and we'll go back over here. Oop, don't need that much room. And back to here. Oh, don't need that much room. There we go. And back to blogging. And now we can edit because we're logged in. And it'll eventually show us the screen there. And then we can just go to the bottom of all of this. What is up with this? Oh, crap. I guess I have this on the old system. So we can set that. Put this here. And I will just drop the link and it'll probably turn it into a video. Yep. I didn't have to do anything. WordPress just knows if I drop a YouTube link, more than likely I want to embed it as a video. So it just does that. And that's what it wanted it to do. And that's what it did. So now we've added Charlie's video to this page on the site for that dude. So that's what I'm going to keep doing. So next is Kevin. We can do him. Pincus, we can do that dude. Laura Smith is in here. I don't have Gina in here. Cheryl Todd we got in here. Anna Mueller we got in here. Clover Tech we got. I think I have them. Kelly is in here. I think Carrie is in here. Tatiana is in here. I might put Jared in here. I don't know. Lauren, I think I have her in here. Sada Yub is in here. Rob Morse is in here. Tony is in here. Jan Wass. Holly Sullivan. And I got Rhonda in here. I don't know if I got Holly. I got a Holly. If anybody knows what the primary arms email saw, I just saw the apology one. I have no idea. What's all that about? Probably apologizing that they report from this show, maybe. We got Rick Ector in here. Got Derek LeBlanc in here. Got Ken Blanchard in here. Paul Lathrop is in here. Aaron is in here. Yuda is in here. What's her name is in here? Mark Walters in here? I don't know. Probably could put that guy in here. All right, so that's a bunch of people who have been on Ready Shotgun with Charlie. So that gives me some idea who else I might want to chat or add to the list too. A bunch of these people are still 2A activists. So now we'll just go backwards. Kevin Dixie. He'll be under instructor probably. But he'll be under activists. And I'll just start opening them in new windows. So there's Kevin. I know we'll need Tony. Edit this. I don't know, I must have flipped something to make the this site the old style. This is the old style of WordPress. And I don't remember doing that intentionally, so I must have done it unintentionally. So there's that, or at least I did it without remembering that I went out to do it. So then we got
Instructor, he's always on the road, doesn't have.
Rob. I think it's in here. He's older than these people. There's Pincus. Edit. I wonder if there's a way to open and edit at the same time. And then I'll just start putting these things in here between info and their contact info. So they thanked veterans and active duty. Oh, you mean thanking them on Memorial Day? They apologized for that. I don't know if that's necessary. I mean, it's fucking Memorial Day. There's no laws. There's ways you can do it, and there's ways that you can do it that are kind of cheesy. We're gonna hear that a lot because his videos start out with that. So Laura Smith is right here. She's a lawyer from California and is, I don't know what to call her, representative of the Liberal Gun Club or something. I forget what they call her. She has a position at the Liberal Gun Club, like the spokesperson or something like that. Next up, Cheryl Todd. That's too long of an intro. So Cheryl Todd is technically gun shop owner, podcaster, but she's an activist, true activist. Goes around doing things that don't necessarily have names and gets things done and facilitates and collaborates and enhances. Definitely, if we had 15 Cheryl Todds, we wouldn't need to worry about Bloomberg. If we have 15 Cheryl Todds working together, we might have 15 Cheryl Todds out there. Next, Diana Mueller. Not too many 22, 23-year veterans of the Tulsa Police Department who have started national level female-focused Second Amendment organizations that managed to get herself invited and stood up in front of Congress and said, shall not be infringed at a pivotal time in history. More balls than most fucking dudes out there. So she's pretty cool. Leave that in there. He should probably interview Anna Mueller again after all that. I think he interviewed her during gun rights policy before all that. All right, so now we got Kelly. I don't know too much about Kelly other than she owns Gunstreamer and she's some sort of advocate. Here she is. I guess she's armed and feminine. And yeah, I'm putting this between. Boom. Well, there's Guns and Barbecue. Shit. Dude, I just barely seen you in there. So if you were waiting there for a while, sorry about that. I'm here bullshitting. I didn't realize somebody was in here. So Barbecue was just over here. Boom, there he is again. Now he's added in. So let's say you jump in here. I'm not going to see you necessarily right off the bat. Anyway, Barbecue, you're in here now. Welcome.
How you doing?
Yeah, fair to Midland. I was Memorial Day treating you?
Honestly, just another day for me. Hung out with the dogs. That's about it.
Well, let's see. We used an inappropriate banner and Veterans Day language for a somber occasion of Memorial Day. Good. I'm glad they recognized that then. We understand this is a day of remembrance and have a deep appreciation for the men and women who gave their lives protecting freedom. Yep. Except they didn't say canines and other service animals. Now you could pick on somebody forever. But yeah, whatever. Like I say, there's no laws, but it's cool to see that somebody, when they get called on it, they understand that. Probably they understand that the people that purchase from them, who is this again? Anyway, they understand that the people, Primary Arms, I'm trying to think of who that even is. They probably understand that the people that purchase from them put worth, value in that acknowledgement, right? I don't know if it goes a long way for most people or if it's necessary even, but it's better than doing nothing, I guess. There's no perfect way of saying dope, right, publicly, but that's what they're doing. They think veterans and active duty in the first one, yeah. Well, I don't know if it's complaining or I try not to complain because I'll do it. I mean, if you want to call it complaining, feel free, but like not letting people know. There's a lot of people that just don't realize, the flag is got value and you don't have to be some kind of weirdo to place emphasis or value in the flag, right? So when people are out there just doing Yahoo shit with it, they probably don't know. They're probably not deliberately saying, hey, fuck all you people or fuck you and your fucking beliefs. But if you let them know, hey, there's you're doing something there that you probably don't realize, and then they change their behavior. I don't know. Is that complaining or is that like on making aware? But whatever. Depends on how they want to own it, I guess. If they want to just be like, yeah, hey, whatever, move on, or if they want to be like, no, everything I do is perfect, and if I did it, then fuck you, I did it right. But I have no idea. I don't know who Primary Arms. Are they the ones that did the? Yeah, I'd be guessing. I don't keep up. I know I've heard the name before, but not enough to sink in. Thanks. I just did Kelly, so next we're doing Carrie. Victims' rights, and well, she does a pretty decent job at just, again, gluing people together in an interesting way that nobody else is attempting. I don't know, Barbecue, do you watch Carrie Sloan at all? Follow what she's doing out there?
I can't say I do. What's her channel?
She's mostly Instagram and
I don't use Instagram a whole lot.
Yeah, so you probably wouldn't. I don't know if people are on Facebook. I wouldn't know that at all. So she might be on Facebook too, but I know her from Instagram. And then in real life, she does quite a bit of real life. She's got the ability to travel and get to places. So she's been able to get to places often, like competitively. So, and just lately, she's only recently been in the whole thing. So, anyway, like I say, she's definitely unique, bringing her own angle into it. Now, in the next one, Tatiana Whitlock. You ever heard of her? You know her?
The last name sounds familiar, but I can't say 100%.
I never thought about her last name. It does kind of sound familiar now that you say that. She's from Maine. She's a mom. And then, like a lot of ladies, just one day was like, wait a minute. Somebody ain't going to protect my kids for me. I'm going to have to protect my kids for myself. She probably said it differently than that. But, and then she got into training and understanding, like anything, if you wanted to experience it or become like observe it, become aware of it, or if you wanted to get involved in it, get absorbed in it, she started to get involved in training and bringing that awareness and the skill sets and the mindsets to other ladies like herself. So she's doing boots on the ground, like grassroots outreach, like no fucking other. Because nobody would.
seen something with her recently. Maybe that's why the name sounded familiar.
Could be because I know kind of over the years she's had bigger and less, or what's the word? Like she's been a bigger name and a less. She doesn't seek out fame, but every once in a while I see her doing something with a bunch of other people who are constantly in the news. So anyway, it's definitely possible she's been doing something. She's also the main. She is the main delegate, one of the main delegates, I think is the way to say it, for the DC project. So now the next one is Lauren Hartnett. You know her? I don't know if I got a picture of her yet. She's an EMT or a paramedic. I think she's one of the two. I know she's one of the two, but I forget where. Somewhere it's kind of interesting, but not crazy. So she's got some interesting stories. That was an interesting hour something long interview. I guess I don't have her in here yet, but with Girl and Tony on the DC project. So a lot of these chicks that Charlie is talking to at these events are not necessarily the founder of an organization, but they might be, heavily involved or been with the organization for a long time or whatever. But I don't have those kind of people in my list. I have the founders because I have to limit it to something, right? So I limit it to the actual individuals that started it or have done, are the hosts of a show. But there's definitely people like Lauren that are the next level. Like, I don't know what to call that. Like, the next layer of the onion down that just aren't on my list because I have to draw one somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you can't keep up with everybody. There's so much.
Well, no, I will. It's just I had to start. So at least my goal is to include everybody I can. It's just that I had to start with some layer of the onion and then start working one way. That's cool. I wish that what my problem is with Carrie, she's the same as KD and some others where they do stuff on Instagram only. And I could care less about Instagram. I mean, I like Instagram when I'm falling asleep or if I'm sitting there or something. Like, I'm not going to use Instagram during the regular part of my day when I'm awake and a normal human. Like, I'm not going to fucking use Instagram. It's a waste of time. But on the edges is when I use Instagram. So the people that are like, everything I do is on Instagram, like I miss 90% of what they're doing because I don't hold Instagram in my fucking hands all day long. So that's my problem with Carrie and them. So I'm glad to see that they're doing stuff off of Instagram because it's probably good for them to get the hell off of their phones and then good exposure for other people to be able to find them. Because if I barely use Instagram and I'm aware of these people that nobody else is aware of, you know what I mean? Like, there's got to be people that have never heard of these people before because they don't go off of their phones. All right, so I was going to do Masada Yu. He's an instructor and a writer, so I could probably find him under writer. Oh, there's a whole bunch of writers, but I found them. So open that one up. I met Masada Yu for the first time in 2009 in Florida at SHOT Show. And I was like, holy shit, that's Masada Yu over there. So I walk over and I'm like, hey, can I say hello? And he's like, yep. I go, hello. And then so I was barely in the game at that point, and I was saying something like, I don't know what I said, probably like, I think you're cool, something like that. And then somehow it turned into, yeah, why don't you come to Phoenix when I'm going to be in Phoenix and you can watch a class? And that was like a $1,200 class or something, probably like an expensive class. I was like, oh, fucking yeah, I'm going to take you up on that. And that got me out of my bubble because I had been watching a few classes up until then, but not getting out of my bubble. So that got me to watch or to see training from a whole nother level and from like a professional level or whatever. Anyway, that's when I first met him in 9. And then, I don't know, I lost count how many times I hung out with Masada Yu. I've got to buy Masada Yu beers before. That was pretty cool.
So do you think that those expensive classes like that are worth that money compared to some of your local classes, like cost wise?
Yeah, because a class isn't like a driving instruction or something like, oh, I need to have this so that I qualify so that I can move on to the next thing. If you think of them as some sort of, a diploma that's needed or whatever you want to say, like an achievement that's needed to move on to the next level, and you're just going to walk on to the next level and never think about it again, then take a local class because you don't care. But if
Yeah.
you do care, if you put value in all the other stuff that like an actual instructor brings to it, then it's not even the same. It's the difference between a Twinkie and a wedding cake. Going to somebody who makes cakes for a living and that's all she does. She makes cakes for a fucking living. Not some dude who makes cakes and other things, but some old lady who's only made wedding cakes her whole life because that's her thing. Only wedding cakes. Every weekend she's making a wedding cake that's literally provided for her and her family. And she's got a whole bunch of kids and a husband who's kind of a loser, and she's provided for him. And she's just been doing this making wedding cakes. And then you're going to compare like that lady in her prime. She's like 70 years old. She can make a wedding cake that's going to knock you off your feet. Like these people don't even like each other. They eat that wedding cake and they're married forever, right? Like that kind of wedding cake compared to some fucking Twinkie that comes out of some fucking robot the size of a warehouse, right? That's just pooping out corn syrups in different shapes, right? You're going to compare those two things. That's some guy who says he's a trainer, and like Masada Ayub or somebody that's like, created training and everybody else is copying off of. That's the difference. So if you're willing to say that they're both just cakes, both of them make you fat, both of them aren't good for you. Like both of them are, made out of sugar, like something like that. If you're just going to compare them that way, they're the same. But that's why I refuse to have conversations like, oh, blah, 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 which trainer's best? You're not paying attention. Like you don't care about the training, then you care about the pieces of paper. You care about like which diploma you want on your wall. And then it just depends on, what combination of diplomas you happen to think would be cool.
Yep. Let's say
it's not you, like, since the olden days when he was a kid carrying a gun because he worked in a jewelry shop or a pawn shop, whatever it was, a jewelry shop, I guess, as a youngin', like a young kid having to carry a gun, and then growing up through laws and being, a patriot, somebody who values freedom, what the Second Amendment protects. So someone who's not just casually been aware of what the Second Amendment protects, but passionately aware of it his whole life, and then dealt through all that, and then been law enforcement, and then been experienced with the courts, and then started writing at a time when sharing this information was not done yet. Like he was one of the founding people who took information that had been exclusively done by people in the professions, military or police. Like unless you were in a profession that needed martial tactics or something, you didn't care more about guns than marksmanship. So he was one of the first people to bring that concept into the realm of private people, and in a way not like I'm telling the cops and you're overhearing it, but like I'm telling good guys, and I'm going to make sure you're a good guy. But other than that, tell your friends. The best way you learn this is by teaching others. So I'm going to present this in a way that's concise and useful. And then because he had experience with the laws and the courts and stuff, he didn't just dance around like, here's the fun stuff. Here's all the shiny stuff. Here's the fun stuff from the movies that you want to know about. I can tell because I know enough students what you're looking for, and here's just the icing. Like here's a piece of cake that's a thin layer of cake that you could care less about because it's just there to give you frosting. He's not offering that. He's like that 70-year-old lady who's been through enough weddings. Every proportion is perfect and there's just enough sweetness and it's just the perfect cake for that couple. He's giving you the real deal compared to people that are like, well, we have to teach you for 18 hours and the tests ask these questions, so here's what I'm going to teach to. Like there's a giant difference in the experience level and the professionalism and the competence of the class. But then somebody who's been doing it literally since most people have been born, like he's been churning away classes every single day. Everybody's farting around talking about who's better and I'm going to get my new phone and I'm going to go buy a different gun. He's there doing a class every single day. Class, new students, old students, and then evolving, because it's not like brand new people every day. Now it's like brand new people and people that have been training for 40 years who are bringing a whole different level of experience than when I first started into the whole mix. So now you've got alumni who are coming to classes and they understand the whole instruction style and they're sharing, and now that feeds into it. So Now, what you're getting a community and an experience with an actual instructor and the communities that they offer. So that's really what they are with their alumni and stuff, compared to, again, somebody who's giving you the requirements to fill out a form so that you can get your permit or get to the next level of whatever it is you're looking for, a CMP gun or something like that. Unknown, who totally different experiences, is teaching to a whole different mindset or whatever you want to call it, different type of student. So going to those two classes is totally different. And then you get to stuff that's closer together, but then on different levels. I guess it'd be like once you go to karate and you think it's awesome to go take Taekwondo and then maybe go, I don't know, something else that's a little different, boxing or something, because you understand the teaching styles. And even though it's not something you're super interested in, you might be interested in how an instructor gets the information across so that you can use that in what you are interested in. Or maybe it's like music, like maybe you like jazz and you go listen to, or you go to an instructor that teaches you how to play rock and roll because of the way he teaches, not because of the song he's playing, but because of the way he teaches you how to use the instrument. So there's that too, I think, once you actually start watching instructors and paying attention to what they're doing. I guess the music is probably the best one, right? Like, so you can play the guitar, but is going to somebody who's played classical guitar their whole life or Spanish guitar their whole life the same as going to somebody who was a rock and roll superstar or something? Like, it's going to be different. People are going to value each of those differently. And even if you went to one all the time, you might still value the other. I don't have a lot of time for the people that think that with the only type of guitar to play, everything else is pointless, because it's just I feel like I'm just keep going on and on there, so I'll shut up about it.
Oh no, that's all right. Let's say, like I said, I was just curious because, I mean, I realize it's definitely a different level, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the whole cake decorator analogy.
Because when I first started, I kind of figured, once you learn how to shoot maybe this way, then maybe you learn how to shoot that way, and then you're done. Like, you've learned how to shoot those two different ways. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that are like, okay, now I've done that. I've learned how to shoot like a handgun. I've learned how to shoot long distance. I've learned how to shoot self-defense, something like that, and then on to the next thing, and they're satisfied. Oh, the other thing is that I've gone to a couple of classes. Have I ever gone? Only thing I've really gone to class and paid for. Actually, no, I've never paid for nothing. The only stuff that I've technically paid for, I traded for, because I was still doing consulting work and websites and stuff. And this was back in the day when people didn't even have websites yet. So like the NRA training I did it because I was interested in it. And the guy that I got the training from, I did his website. So we just sort of did it in trade. It would have been like $500 worth of classes. So I would have charged him $500, let's say, for that website. So we just traded. So I have technically kind of paid for a couple of classes, but most of the time, like I was a student in that case. In other words, I did the work and got the degree or whatever, the certificate. I forget what you call it for NRA. The end with they got the credential at the end. But most of the time I went to classes, I would just audited them or whatever it's called. I just would tell them, hey, I'm interested in sharing what you're doing, and I'm not pointless, I'm not worthless. Hopefully I can be an asset to you while you're there. And for all these reasons or whatever, and can I come watch and record what you're doing? And then once I did that a few times, I could say, and here's an example of what I've done, and call these instructors and ask them if I was worthwhile or not. And I just went there and stayed out of their way, didn't bother them, and I just absorbed, right? I just watched, observed, and took pictures, and didn't try to like show their whole class, but just tried to offer some insight to people from like the fly on the wall, right? As because a lot of times you see reviews and it's from a student's perspective. And they might, well, they definitely can tell you what it's like for them, but they can't tell you what it's like to stand over here while everybody else is eating lunch because they're eating lunch. So I was able to do that. And from that angle, I think I got a different angle. You know, I didn't have to worry about loading mags. I didn't have to worry. I didn't get tired at lunch, you know, after lunch, and then I didn't get, you know, energy back. And I didn't have the waves of attention and, you know, being tired and shit like everybody else. I was just there to watch the whole thing. And once I had done that a few times, I had that down. Like I would look at the instructors and I would look at the students and I would watch how lunch went. You know, I was there to observe things. So, so from that angle, I probably saw training differently than like somebody who's a student in all those different classes. That dude, Carl from In Range, almost everything I ever went to, he was a student at because he just had money and would go to these classes as a student all the time. So I'm sure that our experiences are 100% different. You know, it's just, he was adding to his skill set every time, you know, aiming and shooting and doing drills, loading magazines and doing all that stuff, where I'm paying attention to how many people are carrying pistols or how many people had, you know, this brand or what kind of holsters people had, and, you know, how the instructor dealt with lunch, how, you know, how they dealt with their first aid talks, or, you know, dealt with how they park their cars. Like, does the instructor micromanage everything, or were they, you know, telling stories and bullshit? And there's some instructors that I'll never teach, never train with, because I've, you know, seen that they're a waste of time. Like they're just there to fart around and jib jab. Like they don't teach nothing. They just sit around talking. And then the people that leave, it's one of those emperor has no clothes or something. I don't know if that's the right thing, but like everybody just got done paying a lot of money to be there, and they all kind of look at each other. And if they wanted to be honest, they would be like, we didn't learn shit. Like nothing really happened. We just sat around bullshitting for a whole weekend. But they aren't going to do that because they just paid a bunch of money. So they're going to leave and be like, oh, that was fucking great, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's not too many details they can talk about because there's no fucking details. So there's a couple of instructors that are like that aren't worth a shit.
So those people that end up with an instructor like that, do you think that it's because, like you said, the money that they spent, that they're like, well, I don't want to go and say that this stunk when I spent all this money? Or do you think that they're just so caught up in the experience that they thought it was great, then they might look back later and say, you know what, that was actually kind of crappy. What, you know, I don't recall a single thing that I learned.
That's a great point. So all of that, actually, there's no answer to that. It's all of that, because you're right. So if you've never gone to nothing, and then the one I'm thinking of was a poor class, and the guy's got a name, and everybody knows who I'm talking about. And half people probably want to go to one of his classes or something, and he gets there and he's just blah, blah, blah. And everybody's got, I mean, the guy that I know that went, who was telling me about it all, had been to a lot. So by then he had a lot to compare it to, but the people that had nothing to compare it to think that's what a training class is, maybe. Like they think like, oh, okay, you know, at lunchtime, it's just a free for all. And, you know, the people that are cool go watch the dude be cool in the parking lot, and everybody else does their thing. You know, that's just how training classes are. But then you go to somebody else's training class who, before you even get there, it's like, here's how it's going to go down. So everybody kind of has an idea. And then they start out the thing with, here's a brief rundown, and they've done it enough times that they know the questions that a new person might ask, and they're going to have the answers to that in the progression, so that people are completely comfortable with the situation. So they're absorbing the info, so that it's not like, okay, I'm going to tell you something crucial, but you don't really know when we're going to go on break next. So your mind's wandering. Like, can I get up and smoke, or can I go get a drink, or wow, it's hot here, can I open a window? Like, you know what I mean? Like a good instructor, and none of that stuff happens. So, yeah, I don't know. It would be if you had experience or not, like if you had something to compare it to or not. But then I don't know. There's definitely schools where you'll get people for whatever reason. That's their school. Gun sight is a big one. Front sight is like that. People will say that about tactical response, but it's not really the same with tactical response. But there's certainly schools. Usually it's either they're not all the same. They're that phenomenon, and that's because I'm sure it happens with Masada Youp too. But it's once you've experienced it and you're like, well, shit. For example, Masada Youp will videotape portions, and you're like, oh, he's videotaping this. I got to watch a videotape. As he explains that you're watching a videotape because if they need to talk about any of this crucial information in court, it's designed that way. So now, if you're in court for whatever reason, and you had a lethal force incident, and he's your expert witness, and he can say, at one point in our training that you blah 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 certified and blah 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 have this credential for, they explain the situation that we're talking about here, and let's go ahead and watch that videotape. And then they'll watch a half an hour, 45 minutes of videotape in front of a jury. And now you're in front of a jury of your peers, not a bunch of people that think what Castle Doctrine is or wonder, what lethal justification is or whatever. But now, oh, here, let me bring that evidence into court. And they watch 45 minutes presented in a concise and articulate way on the situation at hand. And it's evidence. Here's what every single student of mine has seen. This is what this person knew about. This is what was going through their mind when this happened. And now your jury's in the same place. Like you could say that's a cult-like following, but you could also say like that's somebody who's completely aware at a whole different level than somebody who's like, I've literally been to a class where the guy's like, I don't believe that we should have a class, second, shall not be infringed. So we're going to look at astronomy pictures for the next 8 hours. And if you got any questions about horses, let me know, because that's my two big things is astronomy and horses. And we have to sit here for 8 hours, and I'm already going to sign your papers. You've all passed, but we're just going to sit here for the mandatory 8 hours. I've been to a TCW class like that. And I'm not against it. I mean, there shouldn't be permits, and that's fine. It's just that if you're seeking out knowledge, then you wouldn't want to go to that class, right? If you're not seeking knowledge, you just want to go hang out with a guy for 8 hours and get it over with. That's the class you want. You don't want to go hang out inside of you and listen to all that stuff that you don't want to hear about. So anyway, so there's definitely some people that are gonna, be like, oh, I trained with XYZ, so it was the best training ever, period. Nobody can tell me any different. Especially if they paid for it or for whatever reason they're down with whoever XYZ's personality is, right? But I can totally understand it, but at the same time, I don't. It's some of it. It's maybe up to like 30 or 40% on some of the schools, but I think all of the schools hold their own. At least all the schools I'm thinking of, gun sight, front sight, the others, they all hold their own. None of them are artificially getting, except for this one guy I can think of. It's the worst example I can think of, where I really don't think he's teaching that much. I think he's just using his name. But everybody else has something unique to bring to the game, and the people that are their fanboys or whatever you want to call it, like they're alumni, they're adamant alumni, whatever, are because they appreciate their spin on it or their thing. Like tactical response isn't any specific like ninja role or anything. It's just the concept of mindset that that everything of every one of their classes goes back to mindset and to being capable, and that's be capable with a rifle, be capable in a gunfight, be capable in a rifle. Like that's just very simple, and kind of the difference between karate and taekwondo. Are they really all that different? Like no, but one of them emphasizes kicks. I mean, that's sort of the thing. Like, are they? Is it different than other training? Not really, because he really doesn't have that many things that you got to do other than realize it's about it's about the mindset part of it, less about the gun you're carrying. It's more about having experience using that gun and when to use that gun enough times so that you're not challenged for the first time you're challenged. If that makes sense. So it's not like the first time you're experiencing it is the first time you need to, everything's on the line. Like that kind of theory, I think, is from afar, somebody's going to go, "Oh, that's cultish" or something, but that's just uninsightful. It's just like a non, uh, whatever. It's just a superficial look at the schools or whatever. Even Front Sight, the one that's the most cultish or whatever, super valid training, super effective valid training. It's just kind of weird. DTP is saying there's a guy doing that before we got constitutional carry. Yeah, it was sort of like that, except he was making people sit there the whole 8 hours or whatever. So I don't actually remember when he signed things, but it really didn't matter in Arizona. You still had to. It was the internet days, but it was one of the first times that I experienced a CCW class. So it was a long time ago, really. Actually, I went to 2 of that guys because I knew somebody else who went to one of his classes later, and I was curious as if it got any better, and it did get different. They kind of turned into CCW was different for security guards, I think. It was some sort of different permit you got for a security guard in Arizona. So you could carry you were an armed guard, I guess. And that wasn't like law enforcement at all. That was just like to get to work at a bank or a mall or something. Like you could work as an armed guard instead of a regular guard, I guess. And they did that kind of training, and then they did CCW training also. So I was curious, like, there's no way he's doing that shitty ass training now that he's doing it all fancy. So I went and observed one of those classes, and yeah, it was a much more standard. It was super boring, but it was a much more standard class. It was kind of tough to review actually because it was so boring. Let's see, the instructor I went to actually offered free classes to people that went to that guy so they could get the legal info and basic instruction. You mean once you got constitutional or something? I don't know what you mean. But I definitely recommend going to more than one CCW class. Those instructors are going to be, everyone's going to be different. I guess it's possible that a couple of them could be instructed by the same person, but they're still going to be different. I know there was a place here in Arizona that sold like the CCW course. It was like a PowerPoint, and you would buy the PowerPoint off of them. And it was literally like, you buy all this stuff and then you run your own CCW classes. So I guess if you went to a bunch of different shops that used their instruction set, you probably would get a very similar class. But most of the actual people that were teaching classes that I knew, one of them was the AT, or was he Border Patrol for forever. He was like a super high-ranking Border Patrol. That was an interesting, like the way he could offer a class was totally different than like Charles Heller, who's Charles Heller, radio show host and super Second Amendment advocate, hardcore freedom. And their classes couldn't be further from the same. All right, so next we go to Tony Simon over here. I have no idea if this is a shit show or if this is interesting for people to listen to. We've got 8 people out there, so give us some feedback. Otherwise, in the background here, I finally got Tony's one here. So I've been updating Minuteman University with the video interviews that Riding Shotgun with Charlie's been doing. I'll probably do the same thing. Actually, that was the whole point of this, was to create places online for all these people, and I could start accumulating the different interviews. And first it was just to do it, but now I'm thinking it's going to be kind of neat. I've been listening to different people from Silicon Valley who I can find that haven't done interviews, and it's super interesting listening to anybody I can find who can do like an hour interview. And if they've done an hour interview in like the 80s and they do an hour interview in the 2000s, because a lot of stuff happened, especially if they're interviewing somebody from the 90s about a company that was either taken off or getting their ass kicked or about to come out with something new. So they were either super optimistic or super depressed or something, but they were all at some level of their career. And then you listen to them in the 2000s and they act like Like they just figured it all out. Like they're done. Like they just weathered the storm. And then of course you listen to them now and they're like, holy shit, did everything go different, you know? So, what people thought the internet was going to be compared to what it turned out to be in the 2000s, compared to what it is today with phones and socials and stuff. Like, it's just interesting to listen to that. So I'm sure it'll be the same with some of these social people or some of these 2A activists. Some of these people will only have their books because they're gone or they're old and they're not doing interviews. And there was no early interviews, but some of them there are. And it'll be interesting to compare some of these early Second Amendment interviews with, if anybody interviews them nowadays. But then you get to the people who are doing stuff nowadays, and we're going to watch them evolve. We're going to be able to watch them get older and wiser and, either continue on and get smarter and better or fade away. So anyway, I just figured out that this is going to be kind of a neat structure for watching that. So this will be some of at least the current status of some of these people. Dan Wass. I only put this guy in here because he spoke at the Gun Rights Policy Conference and they had a big idea of including everybody everybody at the AMCON, I should say. But I don't know. He's some writer. Anybody know who Dan Wass is? Should I give him more respect than I do? Author. He seems like he's always standing next to somebody who did something, but I don't know if he's ever.
I feel like a lot of these names that you mentioned, I've heard of, but if you asked me to tell you anything about them, I wouldn't be able to.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because that's really the point. I figure if I'm like that, then that's got to be the way it is because I kind of care and I can barely keep track. Look how many people there are. It's insane. The only way I know who they are is because I sat there drawing their cartoon and then kind of putting stuff together, doing stuff like this, kind of listening to these things and kind of using this as a way. But yeah, I hear you 100%, like trying to keep track of all this. I don't know if it's even necessary. I mean, if it's your area of interest, great. But I don't really think anybody should need to keep track of this kind of stuff, right? I mean, it's not really a skill set that's going to make you succeed in life, but hopefully being aware of it isn't enough, right? Just knowing, oh, there is somebody who created that place and this is that person. Oh, they've done 6 different things. Like that kind of general knowledge hopefully is useful. And then, of course, having resources where the actual knowledge is at your fingertips, then who cares what you actually know, as long as you know where to find out what you need to know. When you need to know it.
I think part of the nice part of having that resource is just the ability to go and look and say, oh, wow, there's so many pro 2A advocates, whether you are aware of them or not, being able to go and look at what you're compiling for people who maybe are on the fence about 2A, maybe it can make them say, if there's all these advocates that I've never heard of, and gets them more interested as to why is there so many people advocating for this.
Oh, I never thought about it that way, but yeah, hopefully. Come on, I know I had Rick in here.
Because I honestly, as for myself, I've never really, thought about a lot of those things. But then when you see you compiling some of this stuff, one, I'm just like, how in the world do you come about all your information? But two, like I said, just to look at the big picture of it all, and everything together as one, that's a lot of really neat stuff.
That's what the goal is to make it accessible, like to create, give it that, to make that possible. Because I don't know what the next step is, but it's got to be something, right? And well, I guess part of it comes from just hanging out in too many conversations where everyone's scratching their head. People they know there's something that there's there's something, but there's no Wikipedia for this, for just 2A stuff. So nowhere to go get that reference real quick. So many conversations were like, well, we'll just let it go with, we figure somebody probably did that. Or, you know, whoever it is, they'll just go unnamed for this conversation because we don't have it at our fingertips. And then hopefully to encourage somebody to keep doing their thing too, right? Because yeah, can you imagine if you're out here? I don't know. I mean, can't think of a good example. I don't want to maybe come up with an example, but if you're out there doing something and then, you know, somebody came along, I don't know, some amount of time later and was like, oh, nobody's doing XYZ, you know, the thing that you're doing, then that would be frustrating to have somebody waste a bunch of time doing all the stuff that you already figured out before. Maybe doing it better or worse, but either way, you know, not just coming up and going, hey, I want to, you know, bring this new idea to this existing thing or amplify, you know, an already existing effort.
Yeah, and at the same time, you know, hopefully it can help. You know, say people, like you said, are kind of doing the same thing because they didn't know. Well, then, you know, once they find out, you know, maybe through this resource that you're compiling, that, oh, well, you know, so there's somebody else doing the exact same thing. Well, maybe they're on two separate parts of the country, you know, one's East Coast, one's West Coast, and they can start to network with each other and say, well, this is what my experience has been, and share ideas, and maybe even do something together later on.
Yeah, no, perfect. Or like, I'm advocating for left-handed people to quit shooting 9mm. Some other guys like, I'm advocating for right-handed people to quit shooting 9mm. Then they can work together and get everybody to quit shooting. That would be the goal. The ultimate goal. To see that kind of collaboration for good in the world. Oh shit! I killed the chat. So this doesn't really take that long, but obviously I haven't done it in a while. So, but that's what the point of the projects is to create, what's the word, like structure for this to happen. So now is hopefully Charlie keeps doing this as he does his like second round with a bunch of these people. Because look at this is, I guess I don't have the thing open. Oops, I guess I don't have the thing open that talks about all of his chats, and I'm going back to chat number 12 here. But you know, as he goes through and cycles through meeting these people at the next thing that you know, he has an opportunity to drive them around with, then what I'm trying to say, we'll see like the archive grow or whatever. And again, like what I'm saying, we'll see the evolution of the conversation too, I guess. But you know, we'll see whoever else besides Charlie goes around and interviews everybody next. And then the next person will just keep adding those to these posts or whatever. These are basically posts, right? Organized by pages. That's what WordPress is all about. So as we create these pages, these posts, then we can keep editing them or adding to them, I guess. And the last one will be Amanda Suffolcool. What's that? Edit this. So you can see I've already had, for some of these last ones, I had links to Clover's videos of them doing their speeches at Gun Rights Policy last year in 2019. So now this one's got the riding shotgun video. Why isn't it both showing up? Uh-oh, I killed something. Let me go back in and edit. And we'll go and grab Clover's here. For whatever reason, that turned into a link instead of a video. So now by just replacing it, it did its little automatic thing and turned it into a video. So now we've got Charlie's interview with her, and then Clover's video of her speech there. And if I have a time, or when in the future we'll go through and we'll find like I don't know, everybody's speeches from gun rights policy, let's say 2018, and then I can go along and put a tag in here. Like I have a tag AmCon DC Project, 2A activist, podcaster, radio host. I could put a tag in there. I should put a tag in there, GRPC 2019. And then what happens is whenever you click on one of these tags, like DC Project, everybody who has that tag, in other words, everybody involved in that project or that thing that you tagged shows up. So if I start using the tags, it's another way to make these things usable, searchable, make the data, I guess useful is the word, for as many people as possible going forward. And of course, the main thing is even if no human ever touches this, this is all in the internet. It all exists. It's not on some platform anywhere. This is all about just data that's on the internet, gathered in one place. So when people want to look for, whatever it happens to be, all the 2A activists from Florida, or all the stuff that was associated with the Miller decision, or everybody from 1976, or the three writers of some book, it's just another effort at accumulating this stuff. And as I'm looking into the future, I don't know if you all are paying attention to AI. There's a really interesting movie about AI that's out now. But going forward, I used to think that the accumulation of stuff online was kind of pointless, because unless it was searchable or blah, 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 it's just that much, it's like writing a book and putting it in the basement. Nobody can read it. What's the point of writing the book? But as we go forward and AI gets more powerful, like right now, Google has already read every book, at some point. And now every time a new book comes out, as soon as they read it, they can say that they've got everything written, everything read. AIs will be able to access that data. That data will eventually be able to be copied and pasted somewhere else in data sets of that. So anyway, so I think some of this is useful, because going into the future, they'll be able to, once the robots are controlling us, they'll be able to determine what was important, in 2000, whatever, 20, 19, 18, how many times, was this mentioned, or how often, how much effort was put into this. Anyway, hopefully we're leaving something behind, or leaving something for the future. I don't know how to put the tense on that, but anyway, so it's an effort and everything we've talked about, and then hopefully some manipulate in the future a little bit. Let's see. DCP was saying no, they signed the people off with no instruction at all. They wanted those people to get the info without paying for another class. I gotcha. Well, hopefully we'll see a future where enough people are educated to not be afraid of the potential, and instead chill, don't worry about it, and then we won't need these permits and stuff. We won't have to justify nothing. We just won't have permits anymore. Nobody's worried about anybody owning a tank, because it's not really that big an issue, right? You don't need to have laws against owning a tank. So once we get everybody's attention on something else and everybody to calm down, we won't need all these laws. We'll just get rid of them. All right, well, we lost. We're hemorrhaging viewers, and this is all about the ratings. So we're about an hour in, and I've accomplished what I wanted to do, which was get the Charlie interviews over onto the Minuteman University pages there. I'm going to do the same thing with the James Kalita podcast. Out of Order with James Kalita was an effort just like Charlie, maybe a couple of years shifted earlier. And then we've got Cheryl Todd, Gun Freedom Radio, has been, like, they're not posting them on YouTube, I guess. You might not be seeing them, but if you're watching the gun streamer, which I recommend highly, then you'd see that the Gun Freedom Radio has been kicking out quite a few of the videos over there. And I'm going to start connecting those up with the pages over here on the Minuteman University project. And then at some point, I'm going to need to figure out who I'm missing, like who they've done interviews with that needs to be added to the Minuteman University. Because the good news is that while I might not be adding stuff to Minuteman University, our new activists coming along all the time. So looking forward to seeing who I'm not aware of yet. adding them to the list, cartooning them. And it looked like I lost a couple, at least Mike Sedini. I'm pretty sure I already cartooned that guy, so I must have lost him in the hard drive crash. Gotta do that guy again. But yeah, one of these nights I'll go through and pull a bunch of these Gun Freedom Radio videos over to the Minuteman University as well. I could do Charles Heller's interviews. Unfortunately, most of his are probably audio only, but at least that's still do that, I guess. All right, well, Mary Q, you got anything else you want to throw in tonight?
No, I've got nothing.
Right on. Well, thanks for jumping in and offering some other side of a live conversation over here. I threw the link out just to the main chat tonight. I didn't want to say I just don't want to be that guy that posts something on Patreon every night, but I did post something over there earlier, some pictures from I made a couple of little videos about the books I've been working on. I printed them both out in color. I bought a new, what did I have to buy? I think I had to buy I bought an XL color. That's why it lasted so long. I think I bought an XL color to refill because I had just the normal size colors. I bought a larger cartridge the other day. Anyway, so I've been printing out a couple of drafts, I guess, of the different books I've been working on. And I'll probably be putting those down again. I work on them for a few days feverishly and then set them down because they're like bottomless pits. I think I'm close to being done. There's only like a few blank pages. And then I start working on it. And then it's like, oh, I need to edit that picture. And then it's like, oh, what date is that? And I got to spend half an hour online looking up a date for something. So as I'm finding the last little pieces of detail, it's coming, into closer and closer, finer clarity or whatever, focus. But it seems like I'm endless. I have no idea anymore. I thought I was a day or two away from ending it, but I don't want to say that anymore. So I'm putting the books down and I'm going back to trying to make some money. It's the end of the month. And I definitely have bills that are coming up. So appreciate the Patreons who give us a chance to work on those things. And that's how I like to give the updates. So I did one video already tomorrow, edit the other one tonight. I'll do that after this show. And then that'll get me back on the video editing. So I'll be editing video here for a couple of days. That'll mean tons of more videos up on the YouTube and on Gun Streamer. I'm definitely going to be using the Gun Tube more often. I talked to Mike a little bit earlier and got some stuff straightened away over there. So we'll be hopefully shifting this show over to the Tube and maybe trying to run it over there. But still trying to figure out with whatever time frames. It doesn't seem to be out there right now. You see Patriot out there though. I would use Gunstreamer more, but the app doesn't work well for me. Don't worry about the app. Try using the browser and flipping your browser to display as a desktop instead of a mobile. And I'm not saying that will work, but at least it's an option. I don't like apps. Apps try to port too much stuff, and your browser is already trying to port stuff in your phone. So that's at least a different way to get to the same point. Maybe it'll work easier for you to navigate or not. I don't know. So I guess I was going to say I don't see Jimmy out there, but I got an email from Jimmy earlier. I saw him over in Matt's chat, I think, and someplace else we've seen Jimmy pop up. He posted a video or something. So stay tuned for Jimmy James may be coming back with Early Watch, which would, I'm assuming, mean Tony. I see Tony on Rick's chats once in a while. So that would be a cool team to see in the mornings. And again, I'm trying to figure out a way to do the Every Second Matters as the next iteration. So people that might be interested in that, there's only 4 of you out there. But if you are interested, I asked a couple of people if they wanted to do something with the kind of the reanimation of gun channels or the zombie version of gun channels, but didn't get much response on that. We'll see if anybody responds to the Every Second Matters thing. And try to do something going forward towards the election year with Every Second Matters as a unifying effort for a collaborative kind of a project. I'll be trying to come up with something that I can explain easier than that vague ass shit. And once I've got that, we'll see who might jump on board. And then we'll effort with that. But with that, I think we'll end it. As I've been talking, I've just been watching the numbers go down and down. So now there's 4 people watching. We will be back up later.